So I spoke with Ian White recently, and Ian works as a consultant to lots of lettings businesses, and he says the story really starts about 6 to 12 months before someone comes to market. So John, what do you think people ought to be doing, looking at it starting from a seller's perspective? If you're thinking that you may at some stage in the sort of medium or even slightly shorter term think about selling your business or your book, what should you really be thinking about?
I mean, I massively respect Ian, and I would actually go back to say that it's a little bit further. You need a good 12 months to 18 months, possibly 2 years to set it up, because the things that I'm going to talk about today of what you need in your business, you can't put in place within 6 to 12 months. But the first thing is, in order to get the maximum amount for your business, you need to not be integral to that business. So if you're integral to that business, then you're not going to get the full value. And the simple reason is that you are going to have to be replaced by somebody else. So nobody wants to buy a business and buy another job for themselves. So that's not buying a business, that you're just buying being self-employed. So you need to prove that you are not integral, that somebody else runs that business for you. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing is you need to extricate yourself out of the business, and you do that by writing processes, embedding the processes, ensuring you've got the right staff who you have delegated what you do to them. And that is not a short process. That is not a 2-3 week job. That is a 6 months to a year, possibly 18 months, because when you have a look and you actually detail what you do in a business, and you say, well, who can do what in the business? Sometimes people can't do that. You might have to recruit externally. You might have to train some people up. You might train them up and they're not actually good enough to do the job. So that might be a problem. That might be an issue. You may need to performance manage them out of the business and then recruit somebody else. Something else that a new person who's acquiring the business will want to see is your financial figures. So again, you will need a good couple of years to make sure you're maximizing the profit. Unfortunately, conversely, you're going to have to pay quite a bit of tax. But if on the other side of the coin, the fact that you're going to get a lot more for your business, there's a couple of years paying where you pay more tax, but you can actually prove that your business is very profitable. Because this how do you value a business? There is no set way of how you value a business. We've bought 14, and we generally have not had the same mechanism to value a business more than once. There's been 14 different ways of how somebody's wanted to value a business. We have literally had, well, because there's 3 partners and we want a third, a nice round number each. We've had, because that's what I owe my ex-wife and that's what I need to pay her off. Gospel truth. We have had, because I want to pay my mortgage off, right? And that's what I want. I want a boat. So literally we've had different ways of how people have valued a business. So the finances are incredibly important in that you need, your P&Ls, you need your audited accounts, you need to be maximizing that profit. So whoever the new purchaser comes in, they can see that there's a good bit of profit, a good bit of cash flow for them to do with what they want. Staffing as well, you need to find that you've got a really robust management team, or you've got a very, very solid recruitment and staff base within your business as well. Again, what you don't want to do is come in and there's loads of gaps here, or there's performance management of this staff member, or that one's on his final written warning, or that one's got a very poor performance or attendance record. You need a good solid base of staff that have been with you for as long as possible. Again, when you're building your business up for sale, if you have to get rid of a couple of people, you can't help that. You can't, fix it. Say that you've had people for 5 years, when in actual fact they've only been with you for 6 months to 12 months. So you can't hide that. But what you can say is that the top performing, they're what we call the rock stars of the business. Or you've got some good worker bees, and that you're not taken through disciplinary or you're taken through performance management. So for me, when you're prepping the business, there's a lot of moving parts, and this is only a half an hour, 40-minute masterclass, so we can't go through everything. But the most important things are, make sure you're not integral to the business. You've delegated everything. And I think it's interesting to note that a lot of people, when they don't delegate, if you haven't got the staff that you can trust to do every single aspect of your job, you've recruited the wrong staff. If you don't trust the staff, then you've got the wrong staff. It's either they're not good enough to do your job role, or you've got trust issues. But either way, that needs to be sorted out, because if you want to sell your business, then if you don't trust your staff, because you don't trust them to do paying the landlords or doing the accounts, then why should a new person not trust them? Or why should a new person trust them and they haven't even got that relationship with them? You're the one with the relationship, but you don't trust them. What's that saying about you and your business and your staff? So you need to delegate, you need to have the finances in place, and you need to have the right staff in place as well. So, and that is a lot to do with how you're training your staff and performance manage them and skills matrix and learning plans. So those are the three big issues in the short space of time I would say you need in place.
I'm really interested now from a buyer's perspective on how you would suggest that they identify opportunities. So we work with a range of companies across the UK, across the whole property sector, and some of them are highly acquisitive. Others are becoming acquisitive through opportunities, what I'd say. They see this as an opportunity to grow inorganically by acquiring other businesses. How do you go about deciding the types of, when it's the right time, the types of business and the geographies, I guess, are also important to businesses in the estate and letting agency sector where things are quite regional? How do you go through that process to make sure that as an acquirer, you know that it's the right time and you know what you're looking for?
Good question. Or good questions. I mean, one of the things is, do you really need to buy? So one of the things we balance out is do we want to buy, or can we use that money and invest it in just prospecting and growing our business more organically? So if you've come to the conclusion after that sort of analysis that acquiring a business is actually going to be better for you, it's going to break you to a new town, a new location, it's going to get you to a different end of the market, it's going to, you're buying profit effectively as well. A lot of people want to buy a portfolio and then just envelop it within your current business, so you're not taking on the additional portals, the additional staff, or you might be, or you're not taking on new branches. So there's a couple of reasons why you would want to acquire a business. One of the main reasons we want to do it is if we want to break into another town. So we've acquired quite a few now, and every single time we've done it, we've identified a geographic location. We've tentatively grown organically in that area by just focusing our prospecting on a certain area. We've seen, is it easier to grow? And then we've then gone and identified a competitor or somewhere where they're aware of us. They know we're in that town anyway. And it's almost a little bit, well, if you don't, we're going to have a bit of a bun fight, or let's have a sensible, grown conversation about, do you want to sell to us? It doesn't always go to plan. Myself included, agents are quite stubborn. We don't want to feel as though we're, our backs are against the wall, and that's fair enough. I totally respect that. But again, by identifying a bit of an easy target or someone that fits our vision and where we want to take it, and then it's just by approaching them. So a lot of agents are quite apprehensive about just asking the question, hi, can we have a coffee? Can I come and buy your coffee, and can we talk about, do you want to sell? And the majority of our agencies that we've bought have literally having the guts to message the person and say, would you like to have a coffee? It's amazing how many people would say, yeah, I would love to. It really is, rather than, oh, I don't want to ask, what happens if he says no? They say no, they say no. What's wrong with that? If you've got that attitude, I'm not going to ask in case I don't get the answer I want, then you'll never get anywhere in life. Again, you might think that my main competitor, or you might be thinking, well, my main competitor will never, ever, ever go have a coffee for me. They hate me. You'll be surprised at how many people are just at that time in their life where they want to sell. If you want to ask your solicitor or your accountant to approach their solicitor or their accountant and just say, look, I act on behalf of a client of mine. He's looking to acquire estate agents. Your client fits his acquisition profile. Would you be interested? Again, to start off with, it gets the selling agent into the mindset, without knowing who you are or that you're interested, of actually, I wouldn't mind selling. I wouldn't mind having at least a coffee with somebody. And then that breaks down that barrier, that door, and then potentially he finds out it's you, but he's already in that mindset of, in for a penny, in for a pound, what's it going to hurt? It's only a coffee. And then at least you've broken down that initial barrier of, right, I'm going for a coffee, there's nothing more. If I don't like what he's got to say, I don't have to take it any further, but at least I'm open to that conversation.
That's brilliant. So there are three really interesting points I think you brought out there. So I'll start with the big one, which is I'm a big fan of Alistair Campbell's book Winners, where everyone starts with an objective, then strategy, and then tactics flow.
Absolutely, yeah.
So from the perspective of a company that's thinking about acquiring, I would start with what is our objective, either as shareholders, owners, or as a business, and then how does this help us achieve that? So there could be multiple strategies. So you said we can grow organically into the area, or we can acquire. So there are multiple ways, but if the objective is to grow your geographic footprint, then acquisition may be one of the options around that. The second is, I love your idea. I think it's really similar to what Delivery do with dark kitchens, where restaurant brands will start in a sort of off the high street, not in a restaurant, but sort of a generic kitchen, and they will test the level of demand for their product by using Delivery's dark kitchen, and they pay a premium for it, so they don't have to incur the capital cost of opening a restaurant on a particular high street, so they can see what the level of demand is for the type of food they serve. So your way of targeting prospecting shows whether your brand, your value proposition, and everything else resonates in that area, and that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the third thing I thought was really interesting was letting agency directors and owners typically have been very good at asking people for business. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to grow their book. So the sort of fear of rejection probably isn't something that they have in their day-to-day job. Hi, you're a landlord. Can I tell you about what we do? Would you consider us for renting, selling, managing your property? It's quite interesting. You say they've got that reluctance in respect to their own business, but from the outside and not being an agent, I would think that they were perfectly well equipped to have those conversations because they open themselves up to it throughout their careers.
You think they would, and do you know what I think? It's there's a sort of false dichotomy of, if I ask a question and a competitor says no, I'm going to look like the fool. But in actual fact, you're not asking for help. You're not asking for, can you come and get me out of trouble? What you're saying is, can I acquire you? It's asking a question, but at a higher level, asking down, if that makes sense. But still, people think, I'm not going to ask it if, Joe Blogg's letting agent says no. There's no shame in saying, can I buy you, and getting told no. I've emailed I'm friends with some of my competitors on Facebook, and I've just messaged them saying, hi, pretty random question. We're looking to acquire businesses. Would you like to have a coffee? And people have seen it and then not responded. I'm not bothered. I don't feel offended by somebody not wanting to sell me their business that they've worked hard for 25 years for. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't ask, Guy Bairn's getting out, as we see in the Northeast.
That is true. And one of the questions that's just popped up is, how do you go about identifying the best opportunities to acquire? So which businesses do you go after? And so you won't be privy to the financial information. You won't know what their processes are. You won't know how solid their staff are. So from the outside, how do you go about deciding this is a business that I might be interested in?
You'll be quite surprised at what information you can glean from Companies House and market share, and looking at their website, and if you've had any dealings with companies, and also if you've ever employed any of their ex-staff, or any of their ex-staff have come for jobs from you. So any landlords that have come across from them to you. So for example, looking at property files. So if we take a property off Joe Blogg's lettings for Mr. Landlord, Mr. Smith, and we look at their property file and we see what information has come across, we can get a good understanding of how that business operates and runs, just from email communication. It's not foolproof, but you get a basic idea. We've had property files from a rival agent with an out-of-date CP12 and a key that doesn't fit the door. We know they're a pretty cruddy agent. So we know that when we come to potentially get into conversations about acquiring them, there's a lot more demand from a resource and logistic point of view that we would need to invest into the acquisition process. So you get a good idea, you get a flavour of what they're like. You get a flavour of, do you want to touch them with a 10-foot barge pole, or do you want to move on to another potential target acquisition? Once you've identified 2 or 3, I'm probably giving all my secrets away here, but stuff it, why not? Then you can effectively play off in the negotiation process that you're actually talking to some competitors. So again, it's nothing wrong with saying, listen, Raj, hope you don't mind. Just like the two things that people say, right, is that I don't have to sell. This is from a seller's point of view. I don't have to sell, and there are other people interested. Right? It's the 2 things that you will say to me every single time. That's fantastic. We don't have to buy, and we're talking to some of your competitors. right?
No.
So again, it's like it's a level playing field. But once you say, and it's only if it's true, by the way, you're not lying. I'm not saying that you say things that aren't true. But we would go into a location and we wouldn't just talk to one person. We would at least try to talk to 2, possibly 3 competitors, just in case that one never came off.